President Biden had confused Title 42 with the CDC mask mandate. Here's the first statement. They gave people some opening that, hey, maybe this administration isn't just going to go haywire totally.
Are you considering delaying lifting Title 42?
No, what I'm considering is continuing to hear from well, first of all, there's going to be an appeal by the Justice Department, because as a matter of principle, we want to be able to be in a position where if in fact it is strongly concluded by the scientists that we need Title 42, that we be able to do that. But there has been no decision on extending Title 42.
A lot of members of his own party who would hope that they were reconsidering Title 42 and taking people's insight, but no, he got that confused with the mask mandate. How? It's a very specific thing, Title 42, and it's very different than the mask mandate for planes, trains, and some other travel that the federal government has oversight over, which, by the way, they want to force you back into masks there, while at the same time rescinding Title 42, which is utilized during a pandemic. It's just how do you make that argument in court that there's no pandemic at the border, but there is a pandemic for Americans? The vice president, this is earlier in the week on space, and now her chief of staff is quitting.
Space is exciting. It spurs our imaginations, and it forces us to ask big questions. Space, it affects us all, and it connects us all.
That was a speech at the Vandenberg Air Force Base to members of the U.S. Air Force and U.S. Space Force, people who are experts in space. No wonder her chief of staff's quitting. It's whoever's writing the script there should be fired, unless she's not doing prep and they've got to make it so simple and so basic because she's doesn't want to go through the teleprompter and go through the speech, so you don't want any complicated sentences.
There were 2 teleprompter screens there, and I thought, oh my goodness, I thought she was speaking off the cuff.
Yeah.
She was actually reading a speech, and I said to a friend of mine, they need to fire the speechwriter. This is horrible. But the other thing, Jordan, and you've alluded to this, those young people behind her were some of the smartest people in the United States military.
Yeah.
And her tone and her content was absolutely condescending and an insult to these men and women.
This is very serious to our national security when it comes to space. We know the Chinese, we know the Russians, we know we are all working, and in fact, space is becoming weaponized more and more. Now, her chief of staff quit, but the way these stories are coming out is that they quit, not that they're fired. If she was really mad at her staff and it was they were putting bad content in front of her, get rid of them. You're the vice president of the United States. Get some speechwriters. Work with them. Inspire. It's either she's not doing the work she needs to do to prep herself, because she's got to give a lot of speeches. She got to put the work in to be able to read the teleprompter clearly. And if the best they can get on the teleprompter is like what we got, and why you keep having these incidents, is probably it's a staff problem on top of the elected official problem. Either because they're not putting the work in so that they can get out really good, strong sentences. I mean, the fact that we're even talking about that to a politician who made it to the level of vice president of the United States is pretty absurd. Put these two things together, and you see just a White House. It's not just out of control. They don't even know what they're talking about. They don't know what issue they're talking about when they address it. They make big statements to reporters. So how would you feel if you were in Ukraine dealing with these situations, or if you're dealing with Russia in these situations, or China, or Iran? How concerned are you about the fact that the President of the United States talked about Title 42 when he was when he thought he was talking about a CDC mask mandate? So when they play up that game that they're so concerned on these issues, you realize they don't even know what they're talking about. It's either, and that probably means it's just not even it's not a priority. They just don't care. So when they're off the cuff, they get Title 42 confused with the CDC. These are two different things, very different cases, very different legal challenges. But then I think it goes to the Kamala Harris losing her chief of staff, and then that speech to space. Like, who is writing that for the vice president to make it sound like she's talking to a group of kindergartners, if not younger kids?